Welcome to the Metal Prognosis. My name is Lee, and on today's video we are looking again at the Plasma pedal by Gamechanger Audio. Last time we did this, it was pretty cool. We ran it through the guitar, but what we're going to do this video is we're going to run it through the bass to see how that blends with its frequencies. And what I thought would be cool is with this pedal, it's got a blend option, so you can blend the original signal with the characteristics that this has. So I thought it would be nice to give it an overdrive, because last time I used this with a bass, it sounded pretty rad. So let's get a pretty rad sound again and blend it with the Plasma to see how it sounds. Like all my videos, there's a bit of a jam, and then we'll have a chat about it afterwards. But yeah, let's get connecting this stuff together and see how it all sounds. So the Overdrive pedal by Caline, which doesn't really have a name, so I kind of nickname it the Spider. The Spider pedal mashed up with the Plasma pedal. Now we have everything set up ready to go. Let's grab the bass. And before we engage any of the pedals, this is what it sounds like, just as it is. So yeah, it's a bass tone. Nothing really wow, but nothing really bad. But we're here for the fun part, which is the Plasma pedal. So let's engage that. So at the moment, we have the blend fully off, if I'm not mistaken. So the only thing we should be hearing is before it hits the voltage aspect of it. Now we're still going to see the voltage thing move, because it's still going to be going through there. We're just not hearing it. So we're still getting the low frequency, the highs, and the volume change. So already that sounds just richer. And it's still really cool, that voltage thing going off. So let's start adding in the voltage to it. Let's just go extreme. Let's just give it nothing but the actual voltage signal. That's pretty cool. So now this bass does push off a lot of signal through it. So I know that if I push I'll do it just because, if I push the voltage too high, we start getting a lot of crackly and unwanted noise. And we go full, we just get constant really bad noise. And we don't want that. So, and really interesting, just hearing it there, adding that full voltage adds a lot of noise, but doesn't add anything more to the actual guitar, the bass characteristics. So the tones and the aspects that we get from the voltage aren't really affected enough to warrant putting up with that noise and having to clean it up and all that. So we don't need to push it anymore, which is good. So we've got that now. Let's add, we'll go 50-50 blend. So at the moment we've got just a clean bass and let's add some distortion to that. So we'll just leave everything pretty standard-ish, just to hear how it sounds. Compared to I have my tone chasing face on now, or I'm just really focusing in on the tone. But I definitely still want to engage with you. So what I noticed is having the gain too soft, it didn't really push it enough to hear the characteristics. But as soon as I pushed it more, it definitely gave it more of a rounder effect, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's definitely got more attack and more bite to it. It's a little bit more aggressive having it with the overdrive running through there. That is really, really cool. So what I might do is, like all my videos, I could definitely delve in a lot more and do a little backwards and forwards in comparison and try to clean it up as best as I can, but the show must go on. So what I thought would be cool is, I'll do two different jams, one with this effect here. And another one with just purely the plasma pedal. I went the wrong way, sorry. And another one purely with the plasma pedal. And then we can hear the difference to see, because I'm curious now after hearing it, is that going to be lost in the mix when we add drums and guitar to it, or is it going to still be able to hold those pretty gnarly characteristics that we've got going with it already? So I'll pick a Shadows at Bass song with my band, because some of the bass is pretty interesting. And yeah, I'll take a little bit of step away from the camera and jam it out twice. One with a full blend on of the plasma pedal, and one with a mixture of both of them, like we had before. Then we'll listen to it isolated to just kind of get a quick A-B comparison, and then we'll have a chat about it afterwards and see what we think. So sit back, relax, and please enjoy the jam. time for my final thoughts, adding the bass to the Plasma pedal here by Gamechanger Audio with a little assistance of the Overdrive here. Before I talk about this, I will say this. I love having distortion on bass. For all the stuff that I've done with my band, I always like to push the distortion pretty high. And especially when I'm doing my own stuff outside a band, I like to add a lot to it to bring that aggression and bite and grit to the bass tone to really give it that character and that push and that emotion. But when we talk about distortion, there is a fine line between having something distorted and having something go fuzz or a bit fuzzy. And I think this on the pendulum sways a little bit more towards the fuzz than distortion. Not a bad thing, but definitely something that I noticed while doing the little demonstration and gear breakdown of this part of the video. So in saying that though, I was extremely surprised on how well it sounded in the mix compared to how it sounded by itself. So before I actually did the band recording and just mucking around with it with you all, I had a little bit of a fear that it was a little bit too saturated. Now in saying that, we pushed it harder than what you maybe would normally, depending on the project and depending on what you want to do. But I really wanted to do that to push it that little bit more because I wanted this to be highlighted for this video, not just kind of hidden and blended in the foreground, so to speak. I really want it to be under the spotlight. So I definitely did push it a lot more than, as in push its characteristics and its uniqueness a lot more than probably what you would want to do if you were using something like this. But in saying that, it did feel a little bit too saturated. And even with the Overdrive, I liked how this gave it a little bit more roundness in its dynamic and gave it a little bit more push and a little bit more grunt behind it, which was very cool. I did enjoy that, but still felt like it was a little bit too saturated. Until I heard it back in the mix. While I was actually jamming it, it felt really good having the guitars and drums there. Because I did the opposite to my normal recordings that I do with guitar. I normally start off with the drums, bass, and then add guitar. But for this, because it will highlight in the bass, I did the drums and guitars first because I really wanted to have that feel while I was playing the bass with everything in the actual mix already. And it felt a lot more alive with the actual band. And I'm not just saying that because the rest of the instruments were helping pushing it. I say that because I feel like it fitted in, it shined more in the actual mix. And its characteristics, the little bits that broke through, were a real standout. So the parts that I thought were overflowing with the saturation really blended in well with the guitar distortion and the drum tones there. So as much as they were very different, having the blend with this and having this just fully cranked by itself, they both respectively fitted in really well with the mix when it was actually put in there. And I'm sure you would have heard the difference within the mix. And then when we heard them isolated afterwards. So that was a real pleasant surprise. So I'm really happy about that. It's always good when stuff like that happens, when you get those little happy surprises, going in thinking there might be a little bit more errors, a little bit more like this might not work, and turns out to actually be the opposite. So if a band were to bring this in, I say if a band's going to bring this in, like the band I'm in, the bass player, if he watches this video, they would be rapt going, oh, can we use this on the bass? Because they love effects and doing stuff a little bit outside of the box and being unique, which is not a bad thing. But for the purpose of this video and this conversation, hypothetically, if another band came into the studio and brought this to the table and said, I love putting this through my bass, yeah, you'll definitely approach it more sensibly compared to what I did in this video, just by cranking it one extreme or the other. But yeah, I'd be confident and excited to see what cool things you could do with this, using it with the bass, and then seeing how further you could actually push the guitars as well by boosting it and giving it more mids, and seeing how differently you can bring the aggression out with the strengths of what this unit can bring to the bass. So yeah, I'd have no quarrels with that whatsoever. But like all these videos, I'd love to know your opinion. What did you think about adding both these in? Did you prefer it with just the Overdrive blend, or did you prefer it going solo, so to speak, and doing everything 100% out of this unit and not having any of the clean signal or distorted signal going through? Definitely keen to hear your thoughts on it. And also, how do you feel about bass adding effects to it, or do you prefer just to have it straight dry? Because I know when I very first started recording, as much as many moons ago, I did have a tradition of just keeping the bass pretty dry and only really adding effects for highlighted sections of the songs rather than having it as a foundation. So yeah, definitely keen to hear how you like to approach your bass as well. So like every YouTube video, if you haven't left a comment below, that's where everyone leaves them, and I'd definitely love to hear from you. And yeah, I'll do my usual sign off now because I think I've blathered on enough now. But this is definitely a fun video. Bass is definitely not my preferred instrument, but I always love picking it up and playing it, and it's always lots of fun. So if there are any traditional bass players out there watching this, I do apologise if my technique isn't proper, because yeah, it's definitely not. But like any musician, it is absolutely a blast picking up and jamming through it and playing it. So whether this video is in the foreground or the background, I absolutely appreciate your company and being a part of these conversations. And I really look forward to chatting with you next time. And until next time, please stay safe.